Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of Daviess County Fiscal Court to order. This is the first meeting of April 2024. Commissioner Castlen, would you lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Yes, if everyone could stand with me and please bow your heads. God in heaven, as we come before you today, we thank you for the many opportunities this day brings to serve our community while also serving you. Thank you for the challenges and opportunities you send us each day that allow us to be a reflection of your love to everyone we encounter. Thank you for allowing us to live in a country where we are free to disagree with others, but please help us to grow in our understanding of one another while respecting our differences, knowing that each of us is unique and created in your likeness. Thank you for the rain and for when the rain ends before becoming a flood. We ask that you bless the leaders and representatives of our community, no matter their capacity or role of leadership, to have the wisdom and strength for guiding us in a direction that follows your teachings. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Castlen. Brooke.
1. Consideration for approval. A. Minutes of the March 21st, 2024 Daviess County Fiscal Court meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. We've all had the minutes available for review in advance of this meeting. Do I hear any additions, corrections, or deletions?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
B. All claims for all departments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. These are all the bills due and payable by Daviess County Fiscal Court. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
C. Resolution 06, 2024 accept and adopt Fairview Drive.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Brasher.
Yes, Judge. Fairview Drive opened up a couple of years ago all the way to Hayden Road. With that, there was a small section of it that was not in our road index. It's been brought to our attention. It was inspected through the city engineer's office and the county engineer's office. We feel comfortable with its build. I would recommend the resolution accepting that into our road index.
Any questions for Mr. Brasher?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
D. Amend the gas rights and development agreement with Owensboro RNG LLC.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Smith.
Yes, in April 2020, after a request for a proposal had been issued, the county signed an agreement with Owensboro RNG LLC to take the landfill methane gas and convert it to pipeline quality gas. Owensboro RNG still plans to have the facility operational by January 2025, but is asking for a 6-month extension on when production begins to satisfy a potential customer. The staff believes the request is appropriate, recommends approval, and it has been reviewed and approved by the county attorney.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Commissioner Condor.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Smith, if you could, in the extension, there is language that says this, that ORNG shall forgive a portion of Daviess County Fiscal Court's reimbursable costs to the amount of $180,000. What cost is it referring to?
It's referring to the costs that they have incurred on maintaining the gas wells, the dewatering wells.
And that is from this date back?
Is date back from when they assigned it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Any questions from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
E. Deed of easement. Owensboro Municipal Utilities.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Brasher.
Yes, Judge. OMU has approached Daviess County Fiscal Court. They are requesting acquiring a 5-foot by 20-foot utility easement on the courthouse grounds along St. Anne Street It will be utilized for fiber connections. It'll be a flush mount pedestal. I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Brasher?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
F, reject transfer of section of Old Kentucky 144 and associated right-of-way near Thruston.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Brasher?
Yes, sir. The Transportation Cabinet has approached us in regards to taking a remnants of Old Kentucky 144. It's been a supplemental right-of-way for a lot of years. This is their normal process. I believe a resident that adjoins this property has asked for acquiring that property. And before they can do that, they typically will ask the county if they would accept that road into their road index. I would recommend no.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Brasher? Commissioner Condor?
Thank you, Judge. Mark, in this section of road, and I think most people, if you recognize it, it's before you get to the Dollar General in Thruston. It's on the right, kind of veers down. Did you state that it's just one property owner that has access to what is remaining of the old 144?
There's two property owners that utilize that for access. I believe they have a shared driveway, but one property owner is adjoining this particular section. I think the other one actually starts maybe behind it, as why they have a shared access.
Okay, that clarifies. Thank you, Judge.
Anyone else?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
G, grant agreement by and between the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Department for Local Government, and Daviess County to establish an agreement for Owensboro Regional Recovery.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Judge. Per the Kentucky Community Development Block Grant Program guidelines, every year the county can submit a single application in the Public Services Program area for up to $200,000 for operational costs to support a recovery center. The Owensboro Regional Recovery Center, ORR, is the only entity that meets that criterion. Each year, ORR applies for $200,000 of CDBG funds. $190,000 is for salaries, and $10,000 is to GRAD to ultimately administer the grant. We simply act as the fiscal agent, passing these funds along after receipt and appropriate draw applications are completed. I see no issues.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
H, contract with Green River District Health Department for employee assessments and vaccinations.
I'll make motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson?
The county has historically covered the costs of the hepatitis B vaccine, rabies pre- and post-exposure vaccination series, and TB risk assessments for employees of Daviess County Fiscal Court. This agreement simply formalizes that practice and is for the period of April 4th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, not to exceed $9,000. If approved, and at the end of this proposed agreement, I will provide another agreement with the Green River District Health Department for the period of July 1, 24 to June 30th of 25. We will continue this practice for as long as the court desires to cover these costs. The agreements are by fiscal year. Since pricing is subject to change, I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
The only question I'd have is how many employees is this covering, and who would be people that get these
So
shots?
the landfill and transfer station, most definitely for Hep B, and the risk assessment, animal shelter for rabies, and the jail.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I, Benefit Advisory Services Agreement with Peel and Holland Incorporated.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson?
We have utilized Peel and Holland for several years as an advisor for employee benefits and insurance placement services. This agreement is for them to continue to provide general support and assistance, which would include employee education during open enrollment and assistance with ACA reporting requirements. They will review proposals to the court from other agencies for coverage and analyze our current KEHP plan as it relates to other options to keep the court apprised of opportunities, if any. Their annual fee is $12,000. Their services have been largely beneficial to the county, and their proposed rate is unchanged from the prior year. I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
J, cash balance transfer and fund closure.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson.
Davis County Fiscal Court historically utilized Fund 5 to capture all costs of cell construction for the Solid Waste Department for capitalization scheduling only. Since this fund lies dormant for long periods of time, and since I'll be able to attract all associated capital expenditures for future cell construction in the Solid Waste Operating Fund through project assignment within our financial system, I'm requesting your approval to transfer the remaining cash balance in Fund 5 to the Solid Waste Operating Fund and retire the Solid Waste Construction Capital Equipment Fund. The cash balance of Fund 5 is $18,785.51 as of March 31 of '24. I request your approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
K, cash balance transfer and account closure.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson.
Fiscal Court has fully satisfied the debt obligation of the General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 2014 as of February 1, 2024. This debt was for the Convention Center issued December 23rd of 2014 for the total principal amount of $13,986,818. The residual cash balance of the respective debt service bank account is the interest accumulated over the 10 years of activity in the amount of $54,801.34 as of March 31 of '24. I'm requesting your approval to transfer this balance to the general fund and close the respective debt service account. Since this activity is an inter-fund transfer, it requires fiscal court approval. I request your approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
No.
Any questions from the public? Commissioner Con.
Thank you, Judge. As County Treasurer has indicated, the Convention Center debt, which was put on over 10 years ago, is now finished. So we have to make sure we recognize the prior fiscal court for paying that debt down, not only timely, but quickly. That's a great thing that the prior fiscal court did over an extended period of time to where now the Convention Center debt is off the books. Thank you, Judge, and the other prior court members. Well done.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
L, second reading of KOC 620.56, 2024, 01/2024, an ordinance relating to the discontinuance of a portion of Fullenwater Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Counselor, do you need to read this into the record again? Sure. Okay.
So the title is an ordinance relating to the discontinuance of a portion of Fullenwater Road, whereas the statutory procedural requirements of KRS Chapter 178 have been met regarding the discontinuance of a portion of Fullenwater Road, whereas the county engineer and court-appointed viewers visited the premises and filed a report with the Davis County Fiscal Court that in the viewer's opinion, no inconvenience would result to the public if Davis County Fiscal Court discontinued a portion of Fullenwater Road, whereas the viewers and the county engineer recommend that Davis County Fiscal Court discontinue a portion of Fullenwater Road described below, and then that portion of Fullenwater Road is described in the various section. There's an enactment clause, be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of County of Davis, Commonwealth of Kentucky, and it's going to become effective immediately upon passage, and there will be a vote today.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brasher.
Yes, sir. Wesley Poole and Jennifer Poole petitioned fiscal court to discontinue this section of roadway. It's approximately 410 feet. It's the last 410 feet of this road that is in Davis County. About 5 years ago, the bridge was removed. So it's a dead-end street. To my understanding, the pool's on both sides and adjoining property. I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Brasher?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
M, facility use agreement with the Owensboro Sports Center for the May 2024 primary election.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Mr. Johnson.
This is the standard use agreement for the clerk's office to utilize the Sports Center for the 2024 primary election per the county clerk's election plan. Sports Center proposed an estimated total of $6,100, which is the same as the prior agreement. This agreement requires court approval since insurance requirements are met by the county's policy and the judge executive must sign. All other locations that do not require use agreements will simply invoice the county the regular rates. Those range between $50 and $300 per location. I see no issues and would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Any questions from the public? I see our clerk is present. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
N, deed of underground easement, Big Rivers Electric Corporation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Mr. Brasher.
Big Rivers Electric Corporation has approached Daviess County Fiscal Court in regards to an underground easement for, I believe, fiber. It is what we refer to as Gillis Basin. It is behind the houses at the corner of Worthington Road and Lee Rudy Road. This property is utilized strictly as a retention basin. It'll be underground facilities. I see no issue with it. I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Brasher?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
O, renew the following annual bids. 1, bid number 08-2020.4, pavement stripping. 2, a bid number 2020-22.2, concrete crushing. 3, bid number 30-2022.2, wood grinding services. 4, bid number 2223-55.1, janitorial services for Morton J. Holbrook Judicial Center. Number 5, bid number 2223-56.1, janitorial services for county administrative facilities. Number 6, bid number 2223-58.1, coated coagulated culvert pipe. 7, bid number 2223-63.1, county uniforms.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. That was a mouthful, Brooke, but you got through it.
It was.
Anyway, Ms. Sturgeon.
Yes, Judge. All of our service contracts have a provision to where if both parties agree, the contract can be renewed for an additional contract term to a maximum of 4 renewals. The following service contract bids are available for renewal for July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. And after meeting with management from the respective departments, we are recommending renewal for the contracts below, given that services have been rendered to our satisfaction and rebidding the service would likely result in a price increase. Bid number 08-2020.4, pavement striping. Renew with Reynolds Sealing and Striping at 31 cents per linear foot. This is the 4th and final renewal.
Any questions for Ms. Sturgeon on this item?
No.
No.
Hearing none. Next item.
Bid number 20-2022.2, concrete crushing services. Renew with complete demolition services at $6.75 per ton. This is the 2nd renewal.
Any questions for Ms. Sturgeon?
No.
Next item.
Bid number 30-2022.2, wood grinding services. Renew with O'Brien Grain Farms for the attached schedule of rates. This is the 2nd renewal.
Any questions for Ms.
No.
Sturgeon? Next item.
Bid number 2223-55.1, janitorial services for Morton J. Holbrook Judicial Center. Renew with Purist Clean for the attached schedule of rates. This is the 1st renewal.
Any questions for Ms. Sturgeon?
No question.
Next item.
Bid number 2223-56.1, janitorial services for county administrative facilities. Renew with Purist Clean for the attached schedule of rates. This is the first renewal.
Any questions? No. For Ms. Sturgeon. Next item.
Bid number 2223-58.1, coated corrugated culvert pipe. Renew with Contact Engineered Solutions for the attached schedule of rates. This is the first renewal.
Any questions? No. Next item.
Bid number 2223-63.1, county uniforms. I request this to be moved to a later court meeting.
Okay. Any questions on that one? From the public, any questions on those 7 items? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
P, award bid number 2324-59, recreation facilities mowing services for the parks.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
And a motion and a second. Ms. Sturgeon.
Yes, Judge, we received 2 bids and recommend award to the best evaluated bid submitted by West End Lawn Care for mowing services for multiple satellite locations within the Daviess County Park System in the amount of $1,045 per mowing. West End Lawn Care is a known vendor. There were no exceptions to the specifications, and I recommend approval.
Any questions from Ms. Sturgeon?
No.
Any questions from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Q, award bid number 2324-60, clerk record book preservation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Sturgeon.
Yes, Judge, we received 3 bids and recommend award to the best evaluated bid submitted by the HF Group for the preservation of 10 historical record books in the amount of $38,165. HF Group is a vendor used by several other county clerks across the Commonwealth. There were no exceptions to the specifications, and I recommend approval.
Any questions? No. For Ms. Sturgeon. Any questions from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
R, declare the following as surplus inventory and transfer as follows. 2000 GMC Sierra spray truck to City of Whitesville.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Sturgeon.
Yes, Judge. Earlier this year, the City of Whitesville Mayor Patsy Mayfield requested that fiscal court consider transferring surplus equipment to Whitesville before pursuing trade-in or auction options per their current fleet and equipment needs. Judge Castlen and County Engineer Mark Brasher identified a dump truck, backhoe loader, and a pickup truck that were scheduled to be replaced that would be eligible for transfer. This 2000 GMC Sierra spray truck is the second unit in that listing that has become available. This would require the court to declare the item surplus and transfer it to the City of Whitesville in accordance with KRS 67.08024. County Engineer Brasher is in agreement. I see no issues, and I would recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Sturgeon?
No.
I do want to say that I saw Mayor Patsy at a grad meeting earlier this week, and she thanked me and wanted me to pass on her appreciation to the fiscal court, all of you, for agreeing to do this. Any questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
S, hire David Reynolds as Assistant County Attorney effective upon successful completion of pre-employment screenings.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. You care to say anything?
Yeah, I do. So we had a vacancy occur, I think it was March 1st maybe, for this position. That employee got poached by the esteemed Commonwealth Attorney's office. So he now works for them. He works for Mike Van Meter. In any event, David Reynolds is an experienced attorney. He's been in Daviess County for a number of years and came recommended, and we're happy to have him, so.
Very good. Well, welcome aboard, David. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
T, hire Ren Osborne as Service Technician effective upon successful completion of pre-employment screenings.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Want to welcome Mr. Osborne to our workforce and thank him for agreeing to serve our community in this role. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
U, promote Jonathan Heath to engineer with the fire department effective March 31st of 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I want to congratulate Mr. Heath on his promotion and also thank him for his service to our community and as our fire in this role. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
V, accept the resignation of Dawson Fulkerson, service technician, effective April 5th of 2024.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Just want to thank Dawson for his time he spent with us and wish him well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
W, accept the retirement resignation of Tim McDaniel, heavy equipment operator, effective March 29th of 2024,
I'll make a motion.
25 years of service.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Just want to congratulate Tim McDaniel on his retirement and thank him for his years of service to our community. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
X, reappoint Wesley Acton to the Greenwood Cemetery Board, 3-year term, effective April 20th of 2024 through April 19th of 2027.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and want to thank Mr. Acton for agreeing to serve on this board. He has served many years, and thank him for his dedication. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Y, reappoint Gary Adams to the Greenwood Cemetery Board, 3-year term, effective April 20 of 2024 through April 19th of 2027.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Adams is here with us this evening, but thank you, sir, for your many years of service in this, on this board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Z, reappoint Brian Reynolds to the Daviess County Solid Waste Environment and Education Panel Board, 3-year terms, effective May 1st of 2024 through April 30th of 2027.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Want to thank Mr. Reynolds for his service to our community and his continued service to our community. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
AA, appoint Robbie Hawker to the Daviess County Solid Waste Environmental and Educational Panel Board, 3-year term, effective May 1st of 2024 through April 30th of 2027.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I want to thank Robbie for his agreeing to serve on this board and say I hope he's enjoying his retirement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2, consideration for discussion. A, first reading of KLC A.104.02, 2024, 04-2024, Budget Amendment Number 2.
This is a first reading, so that we do not have we do not have a motion and a second on this. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. The county is required to amend the budget to reflect the receipt and expenditure of funds received through a state or federal grant if that grant was not part of the original budget document. This budget amendment is for the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant that was awarded in 2021 to Daviess County Fiscal Court to have the Green River Area Development District conduct a planning process to create a risk assessment add-on for the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. They have completed the work and have submitted invoices for the project. The county will be reimbursed in full by the grant. However, not knowing when the project will be completed, the expenditure nor reimbursement revenue were included in the fiscal year 23-24 budget, necessitating the amendment. The grad risk assessment add-on can be found on their website, and this is the first reading.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Any questions from the public? Next item, Brooke.
B, other business to be brought before the Daviess County Fiscal Court. There is none that I'm aware of.
Okay.
C, public comments.
This is part of the meeting where we invite the public to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and speak to any item that has not been on the agenda. I know there's a number. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Katie Ward. My address is 1917 East 17th Street, Owensboro, Kentucky, 42303. I have volunteered with the Daviess County Animal Shelter since 2015. I'm proud to do it. Over the last decade, I've probably watched sorry, I feel like I'm too close, the once tiny group explode as momentum has grown in our county for animal welfare. It's been amazing to watch and to be a part of. And I do recognize that we could not have come that far without our partnership with the fiscal court. So I do thank you guys for that, along with the staff and the director at the shelter. I'm here tonight specifically to ask for an open dialogue and partnership between us and the fiscal court concerning a post that was on social media, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, stating that the low-cost spay neuter clinic that was open 2 years ago has been reduced to low-income only families. It's my understanding that for the last 2 years, it has been open to the public. And when this clinic opened 2 years ago, we celebrated one of our proudest achievements alongside the county commissioners who were there that day with us, and we dreamt of what could, come forth in this community. We witnessed the direct result of this clinic. A few weeks ago, actually maybe a few months ago, we announced that we have the lowest euthanasia rate that we've seen at the shelter in years, and that's just incredible, the progress that we've seen. While I agree that we do need to support the lower income family members in this community, middle-class citizens actually make up the majority of animal ownership, not just in Daviess County, but the nation. And my fear, our fear, is that removing this from the middle class is going to actually lead to an increase of the overpopulation crisis that we're seeing here in the county. The direct result, unfortunately, because those people that would be using the county, sorry, I shouldn't be so nervous because I know that you guys are not scary, but I am a little nervous, I have to say. I know, it's the microphone and yeah, I'm sorry. I do have some water, but thank you. Sorry.
That's all right. Take a deep breath. You're all right.
I got this. Anyway, when they don't utilize or have that option, this leads to unwanted litters of animals, abandoned animals in the county. And, that leads to additional problems if they're roaming in the county, if it's dogs getting into fights. I know no one wants to walk out on their porch and see a litter of, unaltered kittens that have appeared because of that. Another group that this alienates is the helpers in the community. Speaking of the litters on the porch, everybody has that neighborhood cat that's roaming. And a lot of times these are not low-income neighborhoods. These, Griffith Avenue, I'm sure, has stray cats wandering. And the trap, neuter, return option there, that if it eliminates that, then the neighbor may not be as willing to help an animal that they are not personally responsible for, or before perhaps they would have taking care of that animal and prevented future litters. So I'm curious why the qualifications changed and how we can partner together to remedy this and hopefully restore it to what I believe the intentions were 2 years ago when it first opened. Thank you for bearing with me with that, sorry.
Are you through with
I
your?
am through,
Okay.
yes.
I will respond very narrowly
That's fine.
to your concerns, because this is not a forum to have a back and forth dialogue. I will say that we became aware of things that we did not know were going on. And so I'll just say I made the decision as judge executive it's in that realm as my title's actually two jobs: judge when I'm up here,
Correct.
Executive, I run the county day to day. And so that falls in the realm of the executive role of my responsibilities.
Okay.
And when I learned what I learned, without going into it, I decided that we needed to put the brakes on what was going on. And we are I have directed the staff to look into a number of alternatives that we might pursue. And we'll have additional decisions made going forward. I won't put a timetable on it, I understand from looking at social media, which I do rarely in this job,
Better.
it's good for the mind not to spend too much time there.
Right.
So anyway, but I have been made aware that people are very concerned with what's going on with my decision and their perception of what may happen. So to your point of overpopulation. So as I say, we are working on alternatives and we'll have a decision when in time. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
So thank you for
I appreciate
coming
it.
and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on an issue other than her issue?
Yes.
Come ahead.
My name is Cheryl Brown. I live in the Downs subdivision, and I'm here representing the 125 members of the Coalition for an Inclusive Daviess County. This is a group of concerned citizens and organizations that see what is going on in our community, and we're very alarmed. Representatives from our group met with members of this fiscal court the first week of February to introduce ourselves and voice our concerns about the open library board position. And we are now 2 months out later, still voicing our concerns about the lack of transparency and the politicization of our public institutions at every level, including the library. And I would like to remind the citizens of Daviess County who may be too busy to keep up with what's going on, why the open board position is so important. Because the library board controls all operations of the library, and this would include budgeting, programming, and hiring and firing. Interestingly enough, in 2022, Senate Bill 167, which I know you're very familiar with, was introduced in Kentucky legislature and passed after very much controversy. It was even vetoed by Governor Beshear. Not only does this give its sole authority to the judge executive to appoint library board members, but it also creates a pathway for fiscal courts to stack library boards, then use those sympathetic boards to shift library buildings and operating funds to other projects. DJ Johnson also voted in favor of this bill. Prior to his election, at the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum on October 6, 2022, Charlie Castlen was specifically asked about this bill. It was the last question from the forum to Bruce Coonsey and Charlie Castlen. And Castlen's response was, quote, "It's something Commissioner Wathen and I had advocated with our legislatures for since day one of our appointment at the county level." Castlen stated it was taxation without representation. Sir, I'd like to remind everyone here that we are all taxpayers in this community. In addition, we are aware through the Freedom of Information request we've looked at that there are various emails and texts about the status and risk of our library and the library board at all levels of our local and state government. It was also stated in one of our meetings that no one had ever been concerned about board positions previously, but that's because we didn't have to be concerned. However, now our library has been dragged into a culture war by a small minority in our community, which is trying to turn the clock back to a time in which Black and brown people, members of the LGBTQ community, and others were not recognized as fully participating members of society. On March 3rd, 60 Minutes aired a documentary on this same issue that unfortunately paralleled exactly what is going on here in Daviess County. I would encourage you all to go back and look at it. The library should never be subjected to partisan politics and religious persuasions. The First Amendment should be as important to this fiscal court as the Second Amendment was when this very fiscal court signed the resolution declaring Daviess County a safe harbor for guns due to the influence of several of the same people opposing the library. I've heard this issue referred to as one side or the other or as an agenda, but just to be clear for all of you, the Coalition for an Inclusive Daviess County's only agenda is a commitment to our mission of cultivating a community where diversity is celebrated and every resident feels valued, respected, and empowered. There is no danger to children at the library. Those who claim otherwise do not understand the library's policies nor how it operates. They do not respect the dedication and professionalism of the library staff and the services provided. The true danger lies in those that serve to undermine our public institutions based on their own political and religious ideologies and beliefs. They would like to control others, take away freedoms, and ensure we abide by their belief systems. Our coalition will continue to advocate for the dignity and respect of every citizen and to ensure our public officials are held accountable for the same.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to an issue other than either of those two issues? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kathy Estes. I live at 4104 Buckland Square, Owensboro, 42301. I'd like to mention tonight some of the celebrations our nation recognizes during the month of April. We have recognized April as celebrating Diversity Month since 2004 to honor diversity by recognizing both differences and similarities in order to foster a deeper understanding among people. April is also Arab American Heritage Month, where we pay tribute to the American heritage and culture and the contributions of Arab and Arabic-speaking Americans. We also recognize during April the official end to the month-long celebration of Ramadan. I hope we can ponder on empathy and tolerance in order to break the mental chains that often enslave us against diversity and mutual respect. The obstacles are not our differences, but the people who use those differences to exclude and discriminate against those who are different than us. I hope we all find a way to find a better understanding, greater acceptance of the pluralism of the human being, and a more fraternal society. I'm looking forward to attending the Multicultural Festival at Kentucky Wesleyan on April 27th and hope to see all of my elected officials there. In that vein, I've noticed an increase in fiscal courts doubling down on ignoring the constitutional tenet of separation of church and state. The opening prayers have not only grown longer, but occasionally Bible verses are now often quoted throughout the meetings and during public comments. I suggest that you do a better job of at least recognizing the many different religious views of the citizens of Daviess County in your opening prayer. I've spoken with some of my friends and acquaintances of non-Christian religions and would be happy to supply you with suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on an issue that has not been addressed?
I'm Claudia Ramish. I live on Bluff Avenue in Owensboro. I am the president of the Owensboro-Daviess County Ministerial Association, which is an interfaith organization. This Sunday will be our 19th annual Crop Hunger Walk. It has come to our attention that more and more frequently the people who are showing up at food banks and hospitality meals are families. It used to be lots of single people or occasionally couples, but now it's more and more families. And so this year's walk will benefit the Patino Shelter because they have a special care and ministry for families, and I'd invite the community's participation in the walk. We'll meet out at the Grad Building at 2:30 on Sunday. We'll walk the Green Belt and back. And if you would like to contribute, OwensboroCropHungerWalk.org online.
Thank you.
I wanted to tell the citizens of Daviess County thank you for their support. There's been some very interesting articles in all of the media about voting and people's views of voting, and I really wanted to say thank you to Fiscal Court for supporting me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Liz.
I'll just piggyback your comments. At the grad meeting yesterday, the Secretary of State was there and gave a very good presentation about the safety of our election. And Something I didn't know that was coming is, I thought he said that every county is required to take one machine and hand count that machine. Is to be selected at random. It's not known in advance which one it's going to be, and that machine will be hand counted and audited, which I thought was good news. I did not know that was something. So, anyone else that wishes to speak to an issue that has not been discussed yet? Okay, next item.
D, comments by Daviess County Fiscal Court.
Commissioner Condor.
Thank you, Judge. With the individuals we have here this evening, I'll attempt to just make my narrative as short as I can, which people won't believe, but I will try. Especially when it comes to our animal shelter and animal control. This is what this is going to concentrate on. Myself, my personal passion for pets. My wife, for example, she has raised Shelties, she has raised Dachshunds, and she wasn't a puppy mill. She was very diligent in what she did, to the point of where she also, as the executive director of CASA, got a puppy called Watson. He's a golden doodle, and she trained him. To this day, when he sees her, she can just do, and he just parks. People have asked the question, you trained your dog so well, what happened with your husband? She says, I didn't get him early enough. Okay, and so that tells you the passion that not only we have, but our community has, because COVID did something. It really focused and shined a light on one of the biggest epidemics we have in this community, in this nation, loneliness. We were isolated because of that horrible event that occurred throughout our world. And one of the ways that we filled that hole was with pets. And whether you had one or not, you went and got one. Sometimes there are certain people that don't need pets, and then time happens, life happens, and you begin to have more pets born. And we've seen that surge occur locally, nationally. You've seen it happen. And so hopefully that issue will resolve itself in time. I believe that that will occur. A lot of those hard discussions are being held by fiscal court to address those issues. But I want to make sure that everyone understands the passion of pets is very, very real, and it is. It affects a lot of people's lives. Therapy dogs, the whole gamut across there, and it really does. And I believe this court will take that serious as to what needs to happen in the correct way, both from the dollar sign perspective and from the passion perspective. Because today, and this is just numbers, and what I'm about to say, please understand, I'm only stating the numbers. Today, excluding the jail, fiscal court's budget is a little over $600,000 for human services. Animal control, $1.3 million. Again, not making a position or anything else, just pointing out the reality. Knowing that passion comes into play for both how we take care of our people and how we take care of our pets. So please understand that. If anything you walk away from this evening, that we take that, I believe, very seriously of how we address both items, both the human side and the animal side. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Commissioner Marksberry.
Thank you, Judge. When you made me the liaison to the animal shelter, my heart sank a little because I knew this would be a very emotional role for me. I cannot remember a time in my life when I did not have a pet, and they've always played a huge part in my world. I am very disappointed with the way things are playing out here today. I remember the year I started when we were at the shelter celebrating. We had done approximately 5,000 surgeries at our spay-neuter clinic. And today, we still have on our website that we typically have approximately 3,000 animals that come through the shelter each year. So it feels like something was missed back when we first began doing spay and neuter. So now action has been taken that greatly diminishes the weekly number of spay-neuter surgeries, all because we had fixed some animals that did not qualify to use our services. And people are going to suffer for this. Animals are going to overpopulate, and more will be euthanized. The public is very concerned about it, and quite frankly, so am I. We have a first-class spay and neuter clinic at our facility, along with a very dedicated, hardworking staff and veterinarian. We need to use these resources to help our overpopulation problem in our county, no matter people's income levels, because we are at a crisis level of unwanted animals already. It is my understanding that we offer rabies shots occasionally throughout the year for only $10. I don't see what the difference is as far as competing with the private sector. And I've spoken with 4 out of the 5 vet clinics locally, and 4 have stated they are all okay with it. I have not had a chance to meet with the last one, but I hope to soon. To my knowledge, today, we have resources that are unused at the clinic, which is a waste of taxpayer money. We give money to all kinds of nonprofits in this town without asking the public's permission. I know that there are always people that will not agree with the steps that we take, but isn't sitting on unused resources also a waste of taxpayer money? I would not let the concern of competing with the private sector prevent us from doing our duty to our citizens. The private sector doesn't have the capacity to solve our county-wide problem, but we do. We built it, and they did come, thousands of them. We developed this clinic to combat overpopulation of the animals in our county, and I'm sorry, but this is really bothering me. We have an epidemic here. So at last, I appreciate the staff members and the volunteers who show up every day, and most of the time, I'm sure you all leave with your hearts wrenched from your chest from giving your all. We owe you an unimaginable debt for your service and support. Thank you. Sorry.
Anything else?
No.
Commissioner Castlen.
Thanks, Judge. Thanks, Larry and Janie, for what you guys have had and contributed to this as well. I also want to say thanks to everybody coming out tonight, regardless of what you've represented. That I appreciate when people show up to the meetings, voice their concerns, opinions, and want to work with their fiscal court and their community leaders to help make the changes as they see fit. So, and I want to piggyback a little on Janie of, thank you to the employees and volunteers at the shelter for all that you do. That's all, Judge. Thanks.
The only thing I have before we move on is I want to announce the Whitesville Lions Club is having their annual chili supper and pie auction Friday, April 19th at 2024. Serving starts at 5 p.m. and the pie auction starts at 6 p.m. And that's to proceeds benefit the Wendell Foster Center and Puzzle Pieces. Then also I'd like to announce that we have our Touch a Truck event. It's a free event for children of all ages to learn about trucks, equipment, and vehicles of all shapes and sizes. That's Saturday, April 20th. It says Century Hour from 11 to 12. I don't know what that means. And then Lights and Sirens from 12 to 2. And that is at Panther Creek Park at 5160 Wayne Bridge Road. and it's, again, a free event to the public. At this point, we're going into, we normally have the public comment section at the very end of the meeting. I know a number of you are here for other issues. We've had an appeal on a planning and zoning issue, and that's what the rest of this meeting will be about. All those who don't care to sit through this part, you're welcome to leave. You're certainly welcome to stay if you want to stay.
And there they go.
Wait.
Thanks for coming tonight, Sharon. Marion.
Well, that emptied the courtroom, didn't it?
E, first reading of KLC 921.683, 2024, 03-2024, an ordinance amending a zoning classification set forth in the county zoning ordinance of February 5th of 2004.
This is our first reading, so there's not a motion and a second. Counselor, if you would.
Yes, sir. An ordinance amending a zoning classification set forth in the county zoning ordinance of February 5th, 2004. I'm going to read the various whereas clauses. Whereas the Owensboro Metropolitan Planning Commission met in regular session at Owensboro, Kentucky on February 8th of this year to consider an application filed by William Kegel Family LLC for a zoning classification amendment from AU Urban Agriculture to B4 General Business for a 6.826 acre tract located at 1324 Worthington Road. And whereas after hearing the evidence presented, the Owensboro Metropolitan Planning Commission made findings of fact and conclusions and recommended approval of the zoning classification amendment to B4 General Business. A copy of the transcript of the proceedings is attached. And whereas within the time allowed by law, 8 aggrieved parties each filed a request with the planning office for the fiscal court to consider the Owensboro Metropolitan Planning Commission recommendation. And whereas the official transcript of the proceedings at the meeting, including the evidence presented, the findings of fact and conclusions and recommendations of the Owensboro Metropolitan Planning Commission have been filed and considered by the Daviess County Fiscal Court, then there's the enactment clause, and there's a section. And this ordinance, basically, it's written in a way that ratifies what OMPC did without any changes at this time. And it'll become effective immediately upon passage, but there won't be a vote today. It's just the first reading.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
At this point, I'd like to read a prepared statement. Before we get started, I just want to request the entry into the official record for this appeal, the February 8, 2024 OMPC meeting transcript. I would like to note that all fiscal court members have viewed the transcript. Those who were in attendance at the February 8, 2024 OMPC meeting were board members Louis Jean, Vice Chair, Emmanuel Ball, Secretary, Irvin Rogers, Bill Weichel, Vernon Wathen, Keith Stiff, Jason Gesser, Brian Howard, Director, and Tara Knight, the attorney. The application was filed by William Kegel Family, LLC. William Kegel Jr., who is represented by Charles Kamoff. There were 8 appeals filed by Teresa and John Rabicki, Christina Harmon, Robert Stikes, Bree and Charles Miller, Kevin Brown, John Frantz, Jeff Beard, and Adam Burns. Questions may be asked of these individuals and of the appellants in attendance tonight, who also attended and spoke at the February 8, 2024 OMPC meeting to help clarify only items relative to the said meeting's discussions and materials. The court may allow a spokesperson who attended and spoke at the February 8, 2024 OMPC meeting as a representative on each side to make their argument stating why they believe OMPC interpreted the facts correctly or incorrectly. No new facts shall be permissible. The court's decision shall be determined based solely on facts presented at the February 8, 2024 OMPC meeting. KRS Chapter 100 is the law which governs zoning issues. There must be at least a 3-to-1 vote for this to be approved. The court has a few options to make. Uphold the decision of OMPC, take no action, which would receive automatic approval, or hold its own evidentiary hearing, finding the facts and make a decision. Once the court is satisfied that they understand the facts and the facts only, a decision may then be determined. Historically, Fiscal Court, Daviess County Fiscal Court has simply reviewed the facts. We do not go out and have our own evidentiary hearing. So that's my intent this evening, is that we would simply review the facts of the prior OMPC meeting. A vote on the second reading is anticipated at the April 25, 2024 meeting. No additional discussion is anticipated at the April 25, 2024 meeting. Only our vote. So with that, do any of the commissioners have any questions to get us started?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, Commissioner Marksberry.
This would be for the road department, so I guess for Mr. Brasher. And,
Okay, go ahead.
my biggest concern with this project is that this road floods currently in the curves. So how would that be part of the fiscal court's responsibility to make sure that that doesn't increase flooding for that roadway?
Mr. Brasher?
A part of our review, we follow the planning and zoning PEI specifications. So there's two particular issues within the public improvement specifications that address development and development in a floodplain. Number one is retention. So any development in Daviess County, we review their engineer, the developer's engineer will study the pre-existing condition and the post-development condition, and they are required to have runoff from their property be at or less than the pre-existing condition once the development occurs. So we check that, and also development in the floodplain, they are required to mitigate any type of fill in the floodplain. We require a 1-to-1 mitigation. So in essence, if they bring a truckload of dirt and put it in the floodplain, they have to remove a truckload of dirt out of the floodplain, similar to a full bathtub. You step into it when it's full, water spills out. So you remove what you put into the bathtub and it doesn't spill out. The intent is that you don't have a detrimental effect to the floodplain by doing that one-to-one mitigation. So those are the two areas that we focus on with development and development in the floodplain.
Any more questions?
I think that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Castlen.
Yes, so just to reiterate, you're saying that for this particular project, that the retention and mitigation requirements are being met? Can you say that or that they are in the plans to be met?
Yes, according to their engineer's report that we've reviewed, they exceed the one-to-one mitigation. They take out more than they're putting into the floodplain, and the retention, they are reducing the flow off of their site considerably.
Okay, that's all I have for that for now.
Commissioner Condor.
Thank you, Judge. I don't see Mr. Kegel, owner of the property. Who we got here, please? I'm sorry. If you don't mind.
Unfortunately, my father's plane was canceled today. He couldn't make it, so I'm here representing him. I'm his oldest son, Luke Kegel.
And you're one of the owners?
Yes, I'm part of Kegel Family LLC.
The business or the property itself?
I am part of Kegel Family LLC, the property.
Okay. One of the major issue, it seems, and this is just what I'm observing from transcripts and everything else read and watched, is, of course, the flooding, which is where the questions are coming from. It would seem in looking at it, that I've seen several times when requests are made of developers to do this, X, Y, or Z, whatever that might be. Put in a burn for sight or sound, or put in brushes, that many times if it's not memorialized, you don't put it in writing. Sometimes they won't necessarily do it. So maybe you could ask your father or council that in between now and then, would there be some type of commitment that the developer would be willing to put down in writing to help with the situation of whether it be the ditches that are currently there or anything else that might be helping the situation? Would that be plausible?
Yes, we are fully willing and committed to solving the water issue around it. I mean, it affects the standing buildings that we have there now as well, so it'll be an improvement for the whole area, ours including the neighbors.
Okay, so maybe that could be a potential down the road. So it's good to hear your comments, and hopefully that is shared, I assume, by your father and everyone else in perpetuity of what needs to be done to maintain not only the private ditches, I believe it's on your land, I think it is, and then maybe even the one that's close to the road, whatever that might be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have some questions for Miss Melissa. I just need you to help me understand. When I read the staff recommendation, and of course I had the transcripts, also watched the meeting, staff recommends approval. So I just want to ask you to help me understand. And I'm going to use a city, a part of the city that I'm familiar with. On Parish Avenue, to the west, we have Owensboro Catholic High School and we have Hermitage. And I assume they were grandfathered in years ago. I don't know that. But then all the way to Frederica Street from those two businesses, on the south side is all residential. And then on the north side, there's much commercial. It looks like we don't normally just jump a road that the road is a divider from the business to the residential. So help me understand why in this scenario, crossing a county road isn't easy, or more importantly, the correct decision according to the staff report.
Okay, so in the comprehensive plan land use map, that's what we evaluate when we're looking at rezoning applications. Depending on what plan area a property is in, then there are specific criteria that are listed for the staff to be able to recommend a rezoning for approval. Oftentimes, that one of those criteria is a logical expansion of proportional scope, meaning that directly next door to you, there is the same zoning that you're requesting, and so that's a logical expansion because you're right next door. There are instances in some plan areas, in some of the criteria, that there is also a criteria that's listed as expansion across an intervening street if the property in question or the subject property is of a certain acreage. Typically, it's to go to this B4 zone. If it's an expansion across an intervening street, it's 1.5 acres. You have to be at least 1.5 acres in order to qualify for that criteria. So in this instance, this property is in an urban residential plan area, and the criteria for an expansion across an intervening street is listed. And at 6.8 acres, the property meets that 1.5 minimum. So there is some existing B4 zoning that is across Worthington Road. It does touch on the very corner of the property. It's about 31 acres, I believe, that's zone B4 already. And so because those two properties do touch across Worthington Road, it meets that criteria for the expansion across an intervening street. The other factor that we kind of played into this is that to the south of this property, you have existing I-1 light industrial zoning. So this subject property very easily meets the criteria to also be rezoned to an I-1 light industrial use that could allow for much more intensive uses than the B4 zoning that they're proposing. So the B4 zoning in this instance also serves as a buffer between the more intense industrial zone, then you would have the B4 commercial zone, and then the agricultural and residential zonings. So it will serve as that buffer between those zones as well.
Okay. So you made reference to the other B4s that are in the area. But all those are oriented to Highway 56 and Highway 81 near the roundabout. So this particular parcel will be oriented to a county road that cannot handle the volume that these highways can handle. So again, help me understand how, if I understood your detailed answer, the 1.5 acres is one of the criteria that has to be met. So the volume of traffic's not really an issue when that this business could generate, as far as whether or not you all look at whether or not this should be rezoned.
Well, part of that criteria is also that it generally abuts the same street. And so the 31 acres is actually on the corner of, I guess it's still 56 right there at the roundabout, so 56 and Worthington Road. So that 31 acres that is already zoned B4 does have frontage on Worthington Road as well. So this property does, so they do generally abut the same street, and it meets that criteria. You know, there were conversations about the use and whether it would require a traffic impact study to determine if whether roadway improvements were necessary. And I believe that the property did not meet the warrants or the traffic warrants to garner that traffic impact study.
Okay. Maybe you've addressed the last issue. I'm going to go ahead, but with my question that I had prepared. But when you look across the planning and zoning maps, it's outside of the city limits. It's actually extraordinarily rare to see a B4 zone unless it was grandfathered in that does not face a state highway. It's very rare for them to front a county road. Your thoughts on that?
The criteria states, you know, for us as the staff, we follow the criteria. So for us, it's black and white whether we can recommend approval or denial because it either meets those criteria or it doesn't. And then the Planning Commission can, you know, make more of a judgment call on those things. So as the staff, it generally abutted the same street, although the other property was at the corner. It still was on Worthington Road. You know, so in our opinion, it met the criteria of the comprehensive plan land use map. So that's why, as the staff, we recommended it for approval.
Okay. Just I know Ms. Rybecki, when she spoke at the meeting, her main issue, I guess her only issue was the flooding. The flooding, if I understand correctly, is really not a planning and zoning issue, right?
Correct. Like Mr. Brasher already spoke to, the county engineer's office reviews the drainage and the flooding and those parts of the development plan and approves it prior to our office approving it. So he is the one reviewing that stuff.
Okay. I think it's all I have for you.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, anybody have, while she's up there? Mr. Brasher, so how soon after tonight will the site development plan, before the site development plan is approved? And the reason I'm asking is if we have calls to add any conditions relative to the draining, would that create any problems for Mr. Kegel?
It could. That development plan has already been submitted to my office, and it was approved about a week ago as far as meeting our criteria. If fiscal court chooses to add conditions, they would have to resubmit to fulfill those recommendations or those commitments.
I see. Okay. This is also for you. The transcripts mention more than once that if a traffic impact study is required, is one required in this situation, and explain why or why not?
It is not. We asked the developer to hire a traffic engineer to make that determination, which is standard. We follow the highway department's warrants for traffic impact study. And their warrant is if any development creates 100 vehicles per hour during a peak hour condition, then a traffic impact study is warranted. Their traffic engineer has submitted and signed a document showing that this development, at least, you don't know, I think they have on the plans 2 buildings. You don't know exactly what's going to be in the second building, but looking at possibilities of what my understanding, what the traffic engineer's understanding of what's going to be in the single building, and make an assumption of what's going to be in the second building. Based on that information, he provided data that shows that between those 2, it would not increase the traffic during a peak hour by 100 vehicles per hour or more.
Okay. What's the total number of parking places they're going to have?
I believe it was 56 parking spaces on the plans.
Okay. I just was curious. I'm sure y'all have some kind of data you use to make your calculations as to how many people are going to show up based on your parking.
A parking requirement is an OMPC requirement.
The parking for this type of use is based on the square footage of the building.
Okay. So let me ask you, would the parking, not the parking, but you mentioned a second, I don't know which one of y'all mentioned it, a second building might be built. So if we go ahead and do if we approve this rezoning, then it becomes law, and we've done this based on one building, 7,200 square feet, but there might be a second building. Does this get revisited at that point as far as the traffic impact study or even the drainage portion?
The drainage, I'll take this. The drainage would not unless they change the plan itself. So they've provided us a plan that shows all the parking, including the second building, all the infrastructure. So if anything changes, they decide to make the building larger or smaller, they'll have to resubmit a development plan or amend their development to reflect that, which at that point they'll update the drainage report. In regards to the traffic question, not to pick on any particular, but instead of a building, they come in with a Chick-fil-A, which everybody knows Chick-fil-A has a high turnover. That would not be represented in the traffic engineer's statement. So anything that doesn't meet that statement that was provided for us to make that decision, they will have to update that statement. And at that point, if a traffic impact study is warranted, we would require it.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would just like to add that what the Planning Commission was looking at and hearing is the rezoning of the property, not specifically one building at 7,200 square feet or two buildings or three buildings for that matter. We're looking at the zoning of the property. So, the number of buildings or the size of the building was not factored into the criteria or represented in our recommendation for approval of that. Now, they have submitted a development plan that does show two buildings, and the parking and everything on that development plan is reflective of those two buildings, but that's not part of what our criteria is in looking at that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Go ahead.
If the county road department, and I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but if you're responsible for making sure that the drainage is kept under control, if there's going to be the detention basin or whatever that would control flooding on this road once this property is built, why haven't we already done that? Why haven't we already, done something either with a ditch over there, or can you ask someone in an agricultural zoning to put in a retention basin, or does it only have to be once they become like a B4 or an I1 type business property to alleviate flooding?
I'm going to try to add what I believe might be clarity to Commissioner Marksberry's point. When new development goes in, and it doesn't matter whether it's a commercial development or whether it's somebody's subdivision's being built, my understanding is they have to put in a detention or retention basin. Is that not correct, Mark?
There's some certain criteria. Anything over 11,000, there is an exemption for under 11,000. That's why you don't see retention basins being built for individual residential houses.
Okay.
So 11,000 square feet is really a common trigger for review for retention.
Okay. And to your point, we can't just mandate that a private citizen use their, effectively abandon their land to build a retention basin or detention basin. One of our items on our prior item on the agenda was to give, it was the Big Rivers or Kennedy easement.
Big Rivers.
Across an existing detention basin, right?
That's yes.
And that's one that a prior fiscal court acquired the land to actually build the detention basin to try to help flooding in certain areas. So, it has been done. It's a very costly, deal, and then you've got the, annual mowing cost or whatever to keep it from being overtaken by woodlands, that just
So it'll be
volunteer.
up to the developer to build the retention basin and maintain it?
As developments occur, we look at those two criteria as far as mitigation and retention. Those are utilized so that when a new development comes in, it's not detrimental to the existing conditions. It may not solve existing flooding, but the intent is that it doesn't make it worse. Like I said, typically you'll see where they over-mitigate. They take out more than they put in, which should reflect some sort of benefit. A retention, when they put these basins in and the flow off of the property is less than what it was when it was just an empty field, that should produce a positive. How do you quantify that? We're talking about 100-year events. So it's very hard to quantify what those benefits are, but each development, the goal, at least from our office and with the PI specifications, is it's not there to fix the entire area problem. It's there to make sure that the new development is not detrimental to the existing conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, thanks, Judge. I'm not sure if I should direct this towards Mr. Kegel or Mr. Kamoff, but, you know, going through with the mitigation of the one-to-one and hearing him say that it definitely meets that requirement. And also, you know, reading through the transcripts and knowing that concerns of the neighbors in the area, it's about the flooding and it increasing the flooding, of course. And being there, I've seen how bad it floods when the rain gets in, and I know if my house was across that road, I would definitely be concerned as well, no doubt. Mr. Kegel, I appreciate you saying that you guys will work to maintain that ditch. That's a big factor too, I know, in the minds of the people who live in that area. But if, you know, with the mitigation aspect of it, if there's anything that you guys can help to do within reason to help make it better than it is, I would love to hear if you have any ideas or plans, or if that's even a possibility, if that's been brought up to you. Mr. Kamoff, would that be for you?
I'd say this, that Mr. Kegel made a commitment at planning and zoning that he would do exactly what you said.
Right.
Rod Kegel did.
Okay.
I don't know whether.
It does. I know he made the promise he wanted to be a great neighbor, and he said, "I promised my neighbors, and I'm going to try to do this thing the way it needs to be done, so that water problems do not increase." And I just wondered if there was any other assurances, any other ideas or possibilities or things that could be done that you guys have seen, and if so, we ask that you do that to help to make this better than it is. It doesn't need a response, just letting you know.
Any other questions? I'm going to invite Ms. Rebecca, if you would like to say a few words. I know you spoke at the other meeting and you were one, so I think you have the right to speak to us this evening.
Okay, forgive me right off the bat. I'm not much of a public speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
I am very emotional about this.
Yes, ma'am.
My main concern is some of the flooding, and I'm here to represent all 8 people, plus I think there's one that didn't get theirs in time for me to submit. So, I am talking about from 81 down Worthington Road to the second curve. I don't know if any of you have been out there. I know you have. The flooding's not the only concern. The roadway itself and the traffic is a concern. We are getting, with the roundabout being up there, you have church traffic from the new church Bellevue that was built there. We're getting traffic from 5th Street Road because we basically get shortcut traffic through Worthington Road to Parish Avenue through the roundabout to hit the bypass. And over the years, the traffic has increased. Now, I'm going to use their own news statements against them, not meaning anything bad. But Chris Whitaker has also mentioned, and in their news articles, that this location is going to have your tactical gun store is going to have your tactical guns and your hunting guns, which is going to that's going to take everybody from going to Bowling Green and Greenville. You're going to have this traffic coming here to this location. You're already talking about 56 parking spots on Worthington Road. That is quite enough traffic for just a narrow, 2-wide rural country road. You also have in that first corner there that is very dangerous as they plant corn as far as they can get to the corner of that curve, which blocks traffic. And a lot of people are not going to be aware that you have a new entry on the other side of the street. So we are also worried about the additional traffic that this is going to bring on top of the traffic that we're already seeing. We're already seeing heavy truck equipments coming down through there, putting in internet, new subdivisions that are coming up. You have the EBR, I think that it's the other end of the road. You got school bus traffic down through here. And with the roundabout being put in there, and we don't have the stop and go traffic at the end of 56 and 81 that we used to, and you have more traffic in subdivisions that's being built down 81, the traffic being able to get off of off of Worthington Road with the additional traffic that they're going to bring, I'm afraid it's going to back up the traffic. And no one, I mean, I know you got B4 at the other end of the road. I don't know if Kegel owns property down there or not, but it's not in our front yards. Nobody wants a gun store built across the street in our front yards. I've got pictures here, Kegel's land right here across the street showing that it is a very narrow road. The road's not very wide. Rod Kegel's also run off the road before with his farming equipment and tore out a new culvert that we put in and he had to replace. Cars are coming around that corner. The speed limit down there, I've done talked to Brasher about changing speed limit signs and turn signs with curves, showing that the curve's ahead. I was told that those were going to be replaced, and as today, they still have not been replaced. Forgive me if the flooding issue, I don't trust it. I have talked to Kegel, Rod Kegel, several times about cleaning out the ditch at the end of the culvert, because their ditch, I have pictures here, and I know you've seen the pictures of their ditch. They're not very deep. I have asked them on several times to please clean out that ditch. We get backwater. The road culvert there, to begin with, is not big enough to hold the backwater that we get in that area, and I wind up sitting in it. I am a houseboat when it floods here. And it's just politely asking them what you're asking them here to do today, that they promised to do, that I have asked them countless times, that I cannot get anything done from them, and I cannot trust that we're going to be a good neighbor, because as to date, they have not. We just had a truck that went off into the ditch right up by their farm the other day, hauling a trailer with the roads not being very wide, barely missing a gas line up by their property where the farming is. I mean, pictures of ditches that you can't even see that the ditch is there, let alone maintaining a property as a business owner. I just don't have much faith in the promises that they're giving you here today, because I haven't seen it. And I have been dealing with this ever since 2008. And as far as the flooding goes, I am tired of replacing floors. You can tell me all day long that your farmland floods. Well, I got news for you. You can write that off. I can't write my damages off. My flood insurance is already increasing to over $1,000 a year. And I just can't afford it. And I can't. I am a paying taxpayer, and I deserve to be heard. And I'm out here, like I've told you before, I'm out here maintaining the 2 lots in the buyout beside us, because I can't wait every 3 months for it to be mowed with the deal that was made with the other judge executive when the buyout was done. I was told out when the buyout was done that I wouldn't flood it as bad. Well, that's a lie too, because all it did is the land that did flood no longer floods. They redid the ditch in front of my house, along with the property next door. And instead of the land behind me now flooding, the floodwaters come into the front yard. So all you did was change the way I flood. So until somebody can show me some kind of effort or some kind of plan that you're not going to put more water on me, because I've talked to surveyors that were out there surveying their land, going on about how low it is over there. When you get out there and you start moving dirt in and you start moving land around, you're going to affect my flooding. And I just want to be heard. and I want action taken against it. I want this before rezoning denied.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, if you're here to speak on behalf of your applicant, if you want to say a few words, you're welcome to.
Just a short statement. You know, we're here on the merits before planning and zoning, and it was brought up 3 or 4 times at planning and zoning that on the planning and zoning and what we're about here tonight has nothing to do with the water. I mean, that's unequivocal. So that's the number one thing. But for the issue is, and I think that Mr. Bratcher says that traffic has been controlled because they do not have to have a traffic impact study based upon all the information that was supplied to the, I believe it's HMB professionals. That should be in the record. I don't have to introduce you. I mean, I think everybody knows that that's the case. And so the question is, was there sufficient evidence in the record to justify the rezoning? Now, the planning staff, and Judge, you reviewed it pretty closely with Melissa, and they made a very, very specific finding and also conditions. We have agreed to every one of them. And for this board to consider tonight, the issue is, is there sufficient evidence in the record to do the rezoning on the merits? That's it. I mean, I understand the issues in the area. There's nothing we can do about that, but you just think of all the places. I have a map, and this is the one that was introduced. It's a huge, I have a huge map. Just a second. Now, I'll pass each one of these out. Now, this is in the record. I'm not going outside the record. But this shows you exactly what the planning staff had to look at. Would you like them?
I gave her. I got it.
Please, you got it? You got
It was 2 pages. I thought you gave me 2
I
copies.
hope it's not anything bad on them. But look at that. As far as what the staff had to work with, you've got the subject property. Next to it is industrial. They could put warehouses out there. They could put, even with a conditional use, they could put rick houses with a conditional use. And if you look to the right, it joins B4. The area is all commercial activity other than this one unit subdivision. Now, it's not like the Kegels haven't been out there. They've been out there for 50 years. So, and it's been grain farming, and you're going to have trucks, all that activity in the area. But the issue that I see is, does the record show that there's sufficient evidence to justify the rezoning? For you to overrule planning and zoning, you would specifically have to find something in the record, and there's nothing in the record. There was only 2 issues in the record, and that's what we've been talking about: traffic and the water. Planning and zoning says we're not going to consider the water, so we consider the traffic. We got a traffic report from an engineering firm, so that's pretty well it, Judge. I mean, it's not a simple case for the neighbors. but it's a simple case in planning and zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else up here have a question for anyone at all?
No, Judge, thanks.
Okay, then, John, do we need to address that F on the agenda? Or
I noticed that, Judge, and I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you can adjourn. Now,
Okay.
like I said, and you intimated too, we don't vote, or they don't vote on this. It's a first reading, so.
Right, this is the first reading, so the next meeting where we meet on, I think I said April 25th, is when we will take a vote. And at that point, we don't anticipate having any dialogue or discussion with you all. We'll just vote. And anyway, I thank you all for coming tonight. I thank you for taking time to share your concerns on both sides. And these are never easy. I've sat as a county commissioner previously for 12 years. I've sat on a number of these appeals, and they're not easy. So anyway, thank you. Y'all have a good evening. Without further business, this meeting is adjourned.